It's one of the scariest and most confusing moments, isn't it? When you see a loved one, maybe a parent or grandparent, starting to struggle with their memory, and you just don't know what it means. It's a journey filled with so many questions, and today, we're going to find some answers.
This is really the core question, right? The one that keeps you up at night. Is this just a normal part of getting older, or is it something more? Well, that uncertainty is exactly what we're going to tackle in this explainer. We're going to break it all down, what's happening, what the science is telling us, and maybe, most importantly, where we can find some real tangible hope. All right, so to really get a handle on this, we've got to get the language right first. This is the foundation for everything else, so let's dive in.
Okay, so think of the word dementia not as a specific disease, but more like a description of symptoms. Kind of like saying you have a fever. A fever tells you something is wrong, but it doesn't tell you what's causing it. Dementia is the same way. It's the big umbrella term for a set of symptoms.
And this is the crucial distinction. Dementia is the symptoms. Alzheimer's is the disease that causes those symptoms. So if you have Alzheimer's, you have dementia. But you can have dementia that's caused by other things too. Alzheimer's is just the most common culprit.
And this chart just drives that point home. I mean, look at this. Alzheimer's disease accounts for a massive 60 to 80% of all dementia cases. It's this huge slice of the pie, which is why you hear the two terms used together so often, and why so much research is focused on this one specific disease. Okay, so if Alzheimer's is the disease, what is it actually doing inside the brain? What's going on that causes these devastating symptoms? Let's take a closer look. So let's use an analogy. Imagine each one of your brain cells, and you have about 100 billion of them, as a tiny, super efficient factory. You know, they're taking in supplies, generating energy, getting rid of waste, and communicating with all the other factories. It's an amazing system. Alzheimer's disease, though, it's like a saboteur that starts gumming up the works. And here are the two prime suspects, the saboteurs causing all the damage. First, you've got these things called plaques. They're these sticky clumps of protein that build up between the brain cell factories, basically blocking the communication lines. Then, you've got tangles. These are twisted fibers that get built up inside the factories, totally messing up the machinery. Together, they basically starve the cells and shut everything down. And as these plaques and tangles spread, more and more of those little brain cell factories shut down for good. The damage usually starts in the part of the brain that handles memory, which is why one of the first signs is trouble remembering new things. From there, it moves through the brain in a fairly predictable pattern, leading to the worsening symptoms you see in the middle and eventually the final stages of the disease. For decades, that was a really grim and frankly unchangeable reality. But the story is now taking a really dramatic turn. After so many years of frustration, scientists are finally starting to get some real traction. I love this quote from UCSF researcher Martin Kampman. It just captures the feeling perfectly. An inflection point. It's not just hope anymore, it's this feeling of actual, tangible momentum. It feels like the tide is finally turning after decades of hitting wall after wall. And what's really interesting is this historical parallel experts are drawing. They're comparing today's first-generation Alzheimer's drugs to the very first HIV drugs back in the 80s. Now, those early HIV drugs, they weren't perfect. They had modest benefits and some pretty significant side effects, but they were a crucial first step. They proved the disease could be treated, and they paved the way for the incredible therapies that came later. That's exactly where we are with Alzheimer's right now. And this powerful statement from Dr. Adam Boxer just drives it home. This isn't wishful thinking anymore. The idea of having truly effective therapies it's right there. It's within reach. So this new era of research isn't all about the future. It's already changing things for people today. And let's look at two of the most critical areas where we're seeing huge progress: diagnosis and risk. Okay, this is a massive leap forward. Seriously. For the first time ever, a simple blood test can help diagnose Alzheimer's. It works by detecting those telltale proteins we talked about, the amyloid and the tau. This means getting a clear answer is becoming way faster, a lot cheaper, and so much more accessible to people. And we might even be able to predict risk years before major symptoms even show up. It's a game changer. Now, take a look at this number, 45%. This might be one of the single most empowering discoveries in recent memory. What this means is that nearly half of the overall risk for developing dementia comes from factors that we can actually change. And these are some of those factors.
We're talking about things that are really within our control, like managing our blood pressure and cholesterol, treating hearing loss, staying socially active, even being mindful of things like air pollution. Basically, keeping your heart and your whole cardiovascular system healthy helps make sure those brain cell factories stay resilient. These aren't just vague, be healthy tips. They are concrete, science-backed actions you can take to seriously lower your risk. This gives us so much agency over our own brain health. Okay, so diagnosis is getting better, and we know there are things we can do to lower our risk. But what does the future of actually treating the disease look like?
Well, the strategy is no longer about finding one single silver bullet. Instead, picture a multi-pronged attack. First, scientists are looking at drug cocktails, hitting both the plaques and the tangles at the same time for a 1-2 punch. Second, they're exploring molecules that could actually help repair the communication lines between brain cells. And third, they're using amazing tools like CRISPR to dig into our genetic code and find totally new ways to fight a disease, maybe before it even starts.
So, the ultimate goal has really shifted. It's about making Alzheimer's manageable, turning it from this unstoppable menace into a treatable, chronic condition. Something like HIV or diabetes that people can live with and live well with for decades.
This isn't a fantasy anymore. The science is telling us that the first person who will survive Alzheimer's is almost certainly alive today. The question is no longer if, it's when. And the next question is, what will it take to find them and to turn this profound hope into a reality for everyone?